In the world of shoot-em-ups, who would have thought a witch with pink hair riding a broomstick would be so hardcore? It's just the case with Fabtastic Night Dreams Cotton, released in 1993 for the PC Engine Super CD system. Cute though it may look though, this innocuous little beast has some huge razor-sharp fangs.
It's expected to think you could get off easy at a game starring a young witch with an insatiable lust for candies called willows. But there are a wide variety of things you can do to fight back. To see what Cotton is all about, let's take a closer look.
Cotton takes a really complicated approach to its gameplay with a ton of different mechanics that require a lot of attention to progress, all while trying to avoid a constant enemy barrage. Make no mistake, this game is brutally difficult, and the sheer amount of stuff to keep tabs on is pretty ridiculous. Experience or shot power, bomb power, shields, credits, special continues, fairies, magic spells, it's truly daunting for the seasoned vet, let alone a newbie. So let's try to break down the gameplay to get a sense of what's going on in Cotton. To begin, you'll have access to a single fairy which can boost your offensive power. Pressing the 2 button will fire off forward-firing shots, while the 1 button handles the bombs.
As you defeat your opposition, you'll notice a variety of pickups that will drop. Most commonly, crystals of varying sizes can be obtained and can be one of 4 colors. These colors can be cycled through as you shoot them. It's also possible to juggle the crystals in the air, since they can be lost if the ground isn't displayed on screen. The yellow crystals will give you a point boost, while orange greatly increases your experience to power up your main shots. Blue crystals will give you 1 or more lightning spells, while red crystals will do the same for fire. There are also lanterns that will also appear for your bomb power. More lanterns will give you a faster fire rate and change the bombs from green to red.
But here's where it gets a bit complicated. In the case of magic spells, you can activate the first spell in the set by holding and releasing the 2 button. This will use up the spell and the next in line will become available. It's pretty easy to accidentally set off one of these spells, so it's recommended to set your controller to setting 3 to keep the rapid fire going. The same goes for the 1 button, which, if held, will launch the special Yosei or Fairy shot. But it goes even further than this. By holding the 1 and 2 buttons, defensive abilities can also be activated, depending on the spell in line. A fire spell will activate Fire Silk, which will set your fairy ablaze for a while and act like a fast-moving shield. Meanwhile, the lightning spell will change to a barrier, which will absorb a few hits before dissipating over a fixed amount of time. Neither defensive technique is especially useful since they don't last all that long. Careful spell management is obviously crucial to your success in Cotton, but again, the amount of enemy opposition you'll be facing as you're doing all of this is immense. There are also statues throughout the game that will drift off stage when shot. These statues will reappear with extra fairies, crystals, or other goodies to boost your power. Just be careful not to destroy them before they leave the screen.
Chances are you're going to die in Cotton. Likely a lot. And when that happens, your experience will sharply fall. This means, of course, that both your shot and bomb power will as well. Regaining your power can be a challenging thing in later levels when the crystals you need fall amidst a hail of arrow shots from the ground. Oftentimes, it means you may need to use a credit, but sometimes, if you died too many times, you're thrown to the beginning of the stage without any firepower at all. The key to continuing where you died is to keep your experience up, which, again, can be a real challenge.
And it's really not the controls, since they're actually pretty sharp. It's just how the game is, cold and unforgiving. The enemy waves are easily dealt with enough, but it takes a long time to lock down how every wave works since there's so much. And while memorization can go a long way, most players may not have the patience. If you want a shot at getting further, you can always nab some extends by scoring high. Now obviously defeating enemies as you make your way through the game will progress your score, but if you can power yourself up to a certain point, everything you collect starts to give you large bonuses. Additionally, if a statue is destroyed before drifting off screen, you're awarded with a slick 3,000 point bonus.
The stage end also gives you a chance at huge bonuses. As you defeat the bosses to each stage, tea time will appear, and teacups begin to rain down from the top of the screen. Collecting as many of these as possible boosts your score directly, especially the darker ones. But they also indirectly contribute to a stage end tally. The more magic you have at the end of the stage, the better, as this is also taken into account.
Now, one place that Cotton shines particularly brightly is in its presentation, and this game goes quite the extra mile. On the visual front, there's a lot of detail in the sprites that are used, so everything is quite nice to look at. The color isn't too bad either, though some backgrounds come off as a little too drab.
Despite the color palette though, there is quite a bit of multi-layered scrolling here, giving this particular title more depth than a lot of PC Engine CD games, thanks to the Super CD system's memory boost. Some of the bosses are really well articulated and the whole game moves rather smoothly despite so many sprites on screen.
Sound-wise, the music is driving and catchy. The sound effects over the OST can often sound a bit primitive as well, but on the whole, they're not too bad.
And the voice samples in-game are downsampled quite a bit, compared to the story scenes, which are quite well acted. However, this is the only version you'll find the voiced-over story scenes. Cotton also saw a limited North American release on the Turbo Duo, and the spoken dialogue was cut entirely from the English version.
But the best is yet to come. Cotton could possibly have the very strongest presentation in this whole episode block, not from its great visuals or decent sound and voice-acted sequences. No, Cotton's presentation wins because of one single feature in the options menu: language. Cotton supports Japanese, Chinese, and, here's the coup de grace, English text, allowing a vast amount of people to enjoy the story without the need for translation guides.
Given the region-free nature of the PC Engine CD's games, this also means that anyone with a TurboGrafx CD and Super CD add-on, or Duo, can enjoy what is easily the definitive NEC version of Cotton there is, at an absurdly affordable price point than its $300 North American counterpart.
So, just how does Cotton stack up? Let's take a look. Cotton's control is mercifully sharp, which is great thanks to the amount of stuff you'll need to avoid throughout the whole game.
The control is sharp enough, but a lot of concentration is needed to keep from getting hit.
I never saw this difficulty coming, not from a mile away. But with a lot of practice, Cotton is manageable.
Cotton sets a ridiculous bar when it comes to how hard it is. Why so hard, Cotton?
At 7 stages, plus all of the practice you'll need to get the hang of the game, Cotton will last you a good long while.
Paired with a difficulty that keeps you from breezing through it, the length is quite decent.
Multi-layered scrolling and awesome sprite work makes Cotton stand out, despite the sometimes drab color.
This game has a lot of cuteness that I found quite adorable.
The driving soundtrack sometimes sounds a little out of place, but is great overall.
The music is pretty great, and the sound on the whole is well presented.
The spellcasting and clever use of only 2 face buttons makes Cotton stand out. Its complexity demands practice, though.
I found the spellcasting to be a neat way to even the odds, even if it's difficult to do.
I did not expect this version of the game to be the definitive version for North American audiences, given its plot-heavy nature, but there it is. It's hard as hell and not as great as it could be as a result, but excellent regardless. Cotton gets a 4 out of 5. Getting a copy of Cotton isn't especially cheap, but worth it in the end, especially compared to the ridiculous North American version, which weighs in at a minimum of $350. A careful buyer should be able to snag it for about $50 though. Some auctions can go for more or less, but try to stay away from something that's $60 or more. Cotton is also available on the Neo Geo Pocket Color, but it can get pretty pricey if you're not careful. But if you don't mind the slight wallet ding, Cotton is a great game if you don't mind being beaten by a little girl.